welcome to my channel. I do recaps of reality shows like the 90-Day Fiancé franchise and Love is Blind. If you're interested in that, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please also be sure to check out my other videos and playlists. In this video, I'll be recapping Happily Ever After, Season 9, Episode 17. Since this episode was so long, I'll be covering Brandon and Julia and the Florida gang in this video. Check out my previous video to see part 1 where I covered Jasmine, Matt, and Gino, and Darcy and Georgie. We'll start with Brandon and Julia. They're traveling across Europe, and they seem to be having a great time and reconnecting as a couple. They pan to 5 months later where they're at home. In their confessional, Brandon explains that they had a good time, but because Julie didn't sell her apartment in Europe, they had to come back early. They say they were very intimate during the trip, and then they cut to Julia holding a pregnancy test and announcing her positive results to Brandon. Brandon's reaction was a little weird since he seemed so eager for a baby, but when she told him, he didn't show much emotion. But then in his confessional, he says he's really excited. We cut to a scene of them heading to the doctor, and Brandon explains how he's still trying to process everything. Julia says they decided she wouldn't do surgery, and instead she did vitamins and changed her diet, and they did an ovulation plan. The doctor says they're 7 weeks along, and everything looks good. They can see the baby on the monitor, and Julia and Brandon are getting teared up. Brandon is really happy, and there's a moment where he reaches for Julia's hand in excitement, and it was touching. Then they hug, and it looks like they're on a good path. In his confessional, Brandon says he's excited to tell his parents and how he wants to do something big and memorable to tell them the news. That doesn't sound good for Julia. Brandon and Julia are outside looking at a baby store, and she says she can't go into stores like this until the second trimester due to a Russian superstition. They go to lunch at a bar-type place. The bartender asks if they're eating or drinking, and Julia says both. And then she's drinking something that looks alcoholic, but I'm assuming it's not. But it was just weird how they set up that scene to almost make it look like she was ordering a cocktail. To highlight her pregnancy cravings, they show her overly excited about a garlic sauce she's having. There's not a lot going on here. There's probably not much to show with this couple right now, so that's why we're seeing this filler. And it seemed like this whole scene was just rehearsed and acted out. Brandon says it's time to tell their parents. Julia says his mom will overstep and they should wait until her second trimester to tell them. In his confessional, Brandon says Julia hasn't seen his parents since the last fight they had. He says he doesn't think his mom is overbearing and that Julia hiding it is worse. It doesn't take much foresight to know that his mom will indeed be in their business and it will be a mess. We've all seen it, and unfortunately, Betty will not let go of the umbilical cord with her son. Brandon will need to be the one to take that step if it's ever going to happen. I was surprised he stood up to his parents about the trip to Europe, but I don't think he's strong enough to go against Betty long term. It's amazing to me that Brandon can make a statement like that his mom is not overbearing. Does he never watch back the show? I'm hoping Betty gets called out at the tell-all. We'll see. Now we're with the Florida gang who are still vacationing in Lake Placid. Libby and Andre are in their room being villainous and talking about the others, as is their forte. Libby says she saw Lauren talking to Yara the night before, and she's unsure what it was about. They cut to Lauren and Andre in their room where they're packing. They both say they're glad to be leaving, but Lauren says she wants to talk to Yara first. She goes to Yara's room and explains that she's leaving early to try to decompress from everything that happened. She says she's pissed at Libby, that Libby was upset at Lauren for the dinner incident, and how she twisted Lauren's words. She apologizes to Yara, who is cool about it, and she says she has no negative emotions and she gives her a hug. In her confessional, Yara says both of them should be more mature, but she says she appreciates Lauren for giving the apology, and that she's starting to question Libby since she starts a lot of trouble with her group. In their room, Lauren tells Alexi how much she likes Yara, and Andre says it's great. She has someone else she can rely on. In their confessional, Lauren says in 10 years, she and Andre have gone through so much. 7 surgeries, 3 children, moving 3 times, and how Alexi is her best friend, and he says Lauren is his best friend. Lauren says she wants this behind her, and there's no friendship between her and Libby, and how she doesn't even like saying her name. We cut to Libby and Andre and Yara and Jovi in a van. Jovi says Lauren and Alexi just left without saying goodbye. Yara strangely says nothing about Lauren saying goodbye to her that morning, although maybe she didn't want to give Libby more ammunition. Jovi says they had a convo with them last night at the bar, and then they just left. Yara explains that she told Jovi what Libby said, that Lauren said about Yara, and that Jovi told that to Lauren. This is so high school, you guys. Libby is shocked and asks Jovi, "You told her that?" in a very accusatory tone. She says, "Great. Now she's probably mad at me again." Jovi says he felt like talking about it to clear the air, and Libby says, "You didn't have to tattletale." In her confessional, Libby says she feels awful, and she's mad that Jovi said anything. She says Yara would not have said anything on her own, as she avoids conflict. So to me, that statement tells me Libby clearly knew what she was doing, and that she was manipulative in telling Yara the lies about what Lauren said about her, knowing Yara would likely never say anything about it to Lauren. In their confessional, Libby asks why Jovi would instigate another fight. Andre says Jovi is an instigator. It turns out that the group met the bartender from the night before, and the bartender runs these Bigfoot tours. Since they're on their way to do a Bigfoot tour, the conversation changes to Sasquatch, and how Bigfoot is interested in blondes. The girls discuss how Sasquatch likely has a big D since he has big feet. In their confessional, Libby says she doesn't believe in Sasquatch, but that when she was a kid in the forest, she saw some huge thing, like some shadow, fly overhead, and that it wasn't a bird, but she has no idea what it was. I'm thinking, Mothman? The tour leader points out claw marks on a tree, which he attributes to Sasquatch. Jovi in his confessional says he believes in Sasquatch, and that he's heard the creature is prominent in this area, so he couldn't pass up the opportunity to do the tour. Then there are more jokes about Sasquatch's big D. The tour leader seems a little annoyed at this point. He then announces that he doesn't usually go out this far, so he's worried. And I'm like, well, why did you take them out that far, sir? You are the tour guide. The guide points out a hovel in the ground that he thinks might be Sasquatch's home. Andre starts to move towards it, and they all warn him to stop. He does stop, but I think they should have let him continue, since it would be interesting to see what happens. They came all that way after all, and Andre was willing to take the risk. In their confessional, Libby says Jovi is now on thin ice, that he doesn't understand how she and Lauren finally made up, and that he's just stirring the pot. Then she calls Jovi a dick, and Andre agrees. To me, it seems like Libby will clearly go after any and everyone who she thinks wrongs her, even if they don't know they did anything. So now I'm guessing she'll also lose Jovi and Yara too, and will have zero friends. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.